Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of the five-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Thursday, September 21st. LA Galaxy get a ridiculous come-from-behind win against Minnesota. You thought it was over. You were walking out of the stadium. People were leaving. They had to watch it in the car, listen to it in the car, saw it whenever they got home. They got tweets. They got notifications that the LA Galaxy completed the comeback, thanks to a little help from a red card, but the Galaxy are already rolling. We're going to talk about that game, 4-3 win over Minnesota. That's going to be exciting. I'm glad we get to talk about an exciting game. And then the LA Galaxy getting ready to head to Austin on Sunday. So a lot of stuff to get to, a lot of things to talk about. Here to help me, we're glad he's back. It's Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira. Eric, how's it going, bud?
It's going all right. I'm still sweating. What a game. What a comeback.
Woo.
You know, you made me relive it right there, all the craziness that we went through. We were down. The season was over. We were ready to, put a tarp over everything. Then we're back. Then we're getting points. Then we're winning all to resume and be back in 13th place. What a time to be alive.
It is kind of stupid that the Galaxy scored the first goal in that game. So technically speaking, they were winning at one point in that for 3 minutes they were winning in that first half. And that somehow that all turned into this giant come from behind victory. Whenever I do my score first or score second, it's funny because most of the time when the Galaxy score first, they win. So maybe we should have known.
Yeah, it's a bit of a misnomer. Yeah. It wasn't the given that you want when you score first. And I expected, I was with you. Hey, we scored early. We're at home. Things are going to be good. Feel like this is going to be easy points. And it turns out they were not easy points along the way. So fun times.
Well, the really fun thing is that I saw Minnesota fans before that game going, this is going to be easy. The Galaxy are decimated by injuries. It's over. Mm-hmm. Like, they're going to go in there and run them over. I'm like, where do you come in here thinking that you're just going to run over the Galaxy? And then at halftime, it's 3-1. And I'm like, maybe they were right. I guess, are the injuries too much? Like, but the Galaxy, and it was weird. The Galaxy didn't look like they were that bad, Eric. They didn't feel like they were that bad in the first. They had bad moments, right, that led to bad goals.
Yeah.
But like overall, I was like, they could have scored 2 or 3 goals in that game, I think, and it just never happened in that first half.
Yeah, it's funny when you were saying that. I was like, I was going to say yes and no, but you kind of mentioned that the moments that were bad were bad, and it
were
made
really
you
bad. Yeah,
rethink it because you're right. When I went back and watched the second half, I wasn't able to watch the second half. That's maybe a story, or I can get into it now. I was actually on a plane on the way home, paid $19 for the airplane Wi-Fi so I could listen to Joe Tutino on Apple TV with the home audio. Got excited. They're up 1-0. Got a little disheartened when they let the other team tie it up. Then I got frustrated with that deflection goal, and then that 3-1. I was pissed at that point. I was like, you know what? Season's over. I tweeted out, good night. I'm not going to bother watching the second half because that third goal just felt like they made it too easy. It felt like they had rolled over. But when I went back and watched the game over, because watching on the plane is not an ideal situation, you saw some positives in the first half as well. So to your point, it wasn't like, they were atrocious. They had atrocious moments,
right?
But, they were magnified by just how easy they made it look at the very end there. And then, of course, just to paint a picture, you were kind of describing it. Then I get to my car, I'm getting notifications, and I, go to check, and it's 3-3. And I said, these sons of guns, they're actually going to, get some points out of this. So I'm listening to the audio on the way home. And then Diego Fagundez nabs the winner. So, just elation. I went through all of the emotions through that one game, which I think I've said this about 3 or 4 different games this LA Galaxy season, is the game has been a microcosm of the season as a whole. And I think that's what this season was. This game was, there was hope. You felt down. You felt like it was over. And then there's hope again. And then, it's not that bad, but there were bad moments. So it just seems like we went through all of the emotions in this game. So it was just kind of crazy.
And for the normal group that meets at halftime, right, that we get to talk with, and our normal group was there, and so we were talking, and I walked down the stairs. I'm like, hey, should we just go home? And they're like, yeah, let's just go home. And everybody's joking. I guarantee nobody in that group left, right? You're talking diehards. Nobody's going anywhere. But
I was going to say, if you're at the COG meetup, you're not leaving at halftime.
The reason the season was almost over is important to talk about too, is that the whole idea behind this game was you couldn't lose ground on the playoffs, right? Mm-hmm. It might not have mattered if the right teams lost, right? And you were sort of like,
but they didn't.
They didn't, and they were winning. And to watch it swing, I mean, Minnesota was in 7th place at one point. Right? And you're like, how did they get, they're 7th, they're up above, like, I'm watching the live standings. Minnesota was in 7th place when they were winning. They're now in 10th, right? You had Portland who climbed up into those spots. You had Dallas who were in those spots, right? And so you had all these things going back and forth that happened. And overall, the Galaxy were 9 points out of last
at
place
at
that last playoffs. And you're like, that's it. You can't come back from that. And the funny thing is they win. And what does the win ultimately do? It picks up a single point. Right? Because they were 6 points. Now they're 5 points.
5 points, yeah.
But the 5 points...
Which better than 9.
It's way better than 9, right? And so, I know there are certainly people who want to be, the naysayers and say, listen, this team is one loss away from really dropping out. It depends on how that loss happens and who else loses and all this other things. Yes, I think the Galaxy really have to try to win out in the last 6 games, which is impossible because Greg Vanney can't win 3 games in a row, right? We know that, right? I don't think they actually have to win out, but it has to be close to that, right? And so, and it depends on when the loss comes, right? And so there's some other things. They still have the game in hand that gets made up. So the 5 points, if they win it, becomes 2 points, right? So again, we're sort of, okay, you're there, you're hanging around. I'm very well aware that what you're seeing from the LA Galaxy is a high wire act right now, and that they're up there wobbling as we speak. The wire's shaking. They're like, have you ever seen those guys who do like the really long ones, where really long high wire acts that
didn't they do a documentary about one of those guys?
Yeah, I think they did. I probably didn't watch it though. And they have to kneel down and hold on to the wire. That's what the Galaxy are right now. They're kneeling down, holding onto the wire. But for a while there in the Minnesota game, that wire was shaking and they were getting ready to fall off. So it's very, precarious where they're sitting. They are right on the edge of falling down. And with all the injuries they've had and everything, I don't blame them for being where they are in a lot of ways. Yeah. I also blame them for a poor start. I also blame a front office that didn't care enough really I did see Dan Beckerman there twice last night. He didn't say hi to me. I hope he doesn't know who I am. I don't want him to know who I am.
It's one of those things, you run in the right circles, you'll get recognized. But yeah, there's certain circles you probably don't want to be recognized in.
I don't want to. Aren't you that guy who hangs out with Kevin Baxter? Nope. Kevin who?
The panda. Yeah. World famous panda.
And so, I was doing that, but also to show you that this is a completely different, regime. I was flagged down by Tom Braun after the game, and he got pulled over, and all the reporters went over and talked to Tom. And I think it's Uriel is their revenue officer, right? Mm-hmm. He was there too. I got to meet him. And so you got different regime, right? Like, hey, come on over. Hi, guys. It also helps when you just had a come from behind 4-3 win, right?
That helps, and then it also helps when you're new and you don't have a stench necessarily on you because there's a freshness to it. So that helps, but hopefully that sticks. I mean, we've experienced the opposite, or you've experienced the opposite, and from what I've experienced from the sidelines is maybe a not so friendly environment between the channels of communication to the fan base and the front office. So just the fact that door is open, people are feeling good about themselves. But to your point about it being a hole that was dug too deep for the Galaxy to get out of. It might be. I don't know that we're into must-win territory. This is our favorite part of the season. We're not in must-win territory, but I think we're in can't-lose territory.
Yeah, you're definitely
very fine margins in between there. And when you see the injury list of starters, that's basically more than half the team that is gone due to injury, and these are major key players. But then the frustrating part or the interesting part is with the reload that they have, there's a lot of positives that have been picked up as well, with Fagundez, with Yoshida, with Cerrillo, even, we haven't even mentioned Billy Sharp, the man of the hour, the hat trick hero.
Who?
Mr. Will, and he's not Will. I even looked, I said, he's William Sharp. I was going to do the thing like we do with Doug, but he's not. He's actually Billy Sharp. There's no William in there. But you look at those acquisitions.
By the way, his Twitter file calls him the fat lad from Sheffield. That's what his Twitter profile calls him.
The Sheffield legend. Right. And you look at those pieces and you're like, those are bright pieces. So it's like it shouldn't be that bad as the hole that they're in. But then you see some of those pieces that they've acquired. There's bright spots in there, but I think it just might be one too little too late, and you just don't have the horses at this point in the season, which is really unfortunate.
I feel like we could do a call-in show where all people do is call in and talk about where they were whenever like the game turned around, right? Like I was in the first half because we have Philip gave us $5 super chat. Went out last night for my brother's birthday when we were down 3-1. Season over, right? Checked again when we got home and was just mind blown. But isn't that a nice surprise, Philip? You get home and you're like, I might as well check to see how bad they lost by, and you're like, wait a minute, they won the game.
Yeah,
Billy Sharp had a hat trick, that type of thing. And then Philip gave us a $10 super chat. Philip again gave us another $10 super chat.
Had to add more.
Yeah, exactly. Went again to dinner back in 2020 for his birthday, and the Lakers had a buzzer beater comeback win. So yeah, my brother Peter's birthdays are good luck for the comeback wins. That's good to know. Yeah. That's good to know.
It's funny. Shout out to Philip for those anecdotes. It always reminds me. That's why people stick around, is you wait for these type of moments to happen. I always think back to the Dodgers had a game where they went back to back to back. Had 4, home runs in a row with Nomar Garcia-Parra was with the Dodgers, and there were people running back into the stadium because they were coming back, and that's why the probability of it happening is slim, but that's why people love the sport, because it's so unpredictable. You never know what it's going to happen. I will share a concern though.
Yes.
One concern that I have, which has been a concern under Vanny, is closing out the 1-0 lead or the 1-goal lead or the draw.
He talked about it too. He was also concerned. He said we did a poor job. He said, and I think I can paraphrase, but he said roughly. He goes, also we got to close out the game better. He goes, how are we up a man with like 8 minutes left and we're taking on like water? We're having to to survive shots and make plays.
Yeah, well, why I say it's a concern under Vanny, because I didn't just see that in this game. I saw it against St. Louis, saw it against San Jose, and then obviously now the Minnesota game. They possess all game long. And then for whatever reason, in the final 10 minutes, they decide that they're going to kill the game. They're going to play for the tie. St. Louis, when they were here and they were, drawed, the Galaxy was playing for the, wasting the clock and,
right.
Hitting in their corner. And St. Louis is pushing. And that's why they're in the position that they are on the West Coast. These good teams, they don't kill the clock. They punish their opponent. And I think that's the one thing that the Galaxy is missing. I understand. I'm not a dummy. I know that you expose yourself on the counter. But just sitting back and letting them come to you or wasting it and blowing it to the corner and hope the game's in, that's not what got you there. So that's the concern to me, is you have a team that is so good at dominating possession. Finishing chances is a different thing altogether. But dominating possession is something you could do. And they seem to get away with that when they need it the most. And that's a concern. I hope that's something that doesn't come back to bite them.
Yeah, for sure. 4-3 win over Minnesota. The hat trick by Billy Sharp. Tremendous play by Billy Sharp. I'm sure we'll talk about him here in a second. Mark Delgado, Billy Sharp, Tyler Boyd. We were trying to figure out how they were going to line up whenever the lineup was announced, because with Cerrillo in there and Uri Rosell, I'm still convinced, and Greg talked about how Puig was sort of more on the wing to start this game. And I said, okay, cool. But this really did morph into like a 4-2-3-1 eventually, when everything was sort of said and done, and just moving Delgado.
Fluid,
yeah. It was fine. I think they struggled. I didn't think their spacing was great in the first half, and that first half was a roller coaster. The Galaxy could have easily scored 2 or 3 goals in that first half. Dane St. Clair had 2 double saves in the first half, and even the Galaxy goals that they scored, it was off of good plays from St. Clair as well. So even when they did find the back of the net, it was off great play from their goalkeepers. All credit to St. Clair from the game they have, because to your point, and that's when I went back and rewatched it. It felt like a disaster because of how it ended with that third goal. But when you went back and rewatched it, the chances were definitely there for the Galaxy. Yeah, and they continued. That's interesting because Greg after that, right? So he talks about it. So Billy Sharp scores. Minnesota scores 3 minutes later. They add the second one. By the way, the second one, I was convinced killed the LA Galaxy. That is the Raheem Edwards one where he's trying to block it and it goes off his heel. Yeah. I had a lot of people blaming Jonathan Bond, and you can all just take a long walk off a short pier. You can't expect a goalkeeper who's trying to go with the shot, because there was a shot. He's already moving in that direction. He's already preparing for that shot. The shot is taken. There's actually a pretty good distance between when the shot is taken and the deflection. So the ball is already set on its path, and Bond is already adjusted and ready for that path. Then to watch the ball just barely tick off of Raheem Edwards' heel, and then have top spin enough to be able to go down. There's like 0% chance that ball ever goes in the back of the net from there. It's a ridiculous deflection. If it deflects, that ball almost never deflects like that, right? And then the ball nestles in the back of the net. I don't know what you want him to do. And it's like, you can blame him for other things. I'm fine. And people were like, I literally had people screaming at me on Twitter, all you ever do is defend him. I'll gladly tell you whenever I think he's on a mistake. That's not one of them. There's nothing you can do about that. That is the most unlucky goal. I thought it was a conspiracy theory going on. I'm like, okay, seriously though, like, let me put my tinfoil hat on. Is like MLS got like a remote control? Yeah, I mean, like, what is going on with that? That was a crazy goal.
Yeah, and coming off the LAFC game, which you could argue was probably Bond's worst performance.
Yeah,
and I think he deserves a lot of criticism there. But this goal, that goal in particular, I don't know that you can blame Bond. Maybe you could hope that he's more athletic, maybe like Sinclair, to double back and get up in time and place your feet. But I don't know that I'd blame him for that particular goal and the way it happened. So it is what it is in that situation. But they the frustrating thing is it felt like after that goal, to your point, like that was the one that killed them, because after that you saw a switch off from them, and that's not what you wanted. Obviously down a goal, you want to see some fight. You want to see, can we claw back? Let's not make this any worse before you go into the half. And then, given to that point that I just mentioned about LAFC, how poorly they played against LAFC in general, and then you see, the second half of the first half, how poorly they played. You said, man, this is too difficult. The injuries are too much to overcome, and this team may be fully cooked. But you saw a great response in the second half.
Yeah, and Vanny talked about it. He goes, I saw the shoulders, I saw the heads down, I saw the the lack of belief in what they were doing. I saw the frustration building in. That Galaxy team could have easily gone in the tank. You're down 3-1 after being up 1-0. You allow 3 consecutive goals. Some of those are just poor mistakes. The third goal especially, just I think Yoshida doesn't head the ball correctly, and the ball ends up falling, and it comes in, and then he's chasing, and he's back behind, and there's a pass in behind. It's a nightmare. You don't want to see it, right? And so 3-1, you're like, this game should be over. Really interesting talking to Billy Sharp after it too, because he has his one goal. He's feeling good. Everything's going pretty nice. And Billy Sharp says, Kelvin, he goes, I'm pretty sure it was Kelvin, mentioned to me, he goes, they already think they won this game, right? And Billy goes, yeah, he's like, this is what he told us. He goes, yeah, they already think they won this game. And you know what? That made me angry, right? He goes, that got me a little worked up. He goes, because who are they to think that game is already won, right? And that is such a championship mentality type of thing. Is like, they think this game is already won. And the biggest whiner in the whole world the entire game was Adrian Heath, right? The man could not stop whining. Do you remember Minnesota got 3 yellow cards and 3 consecutive fouls in 3 minutes? And it was like all of them. There was one that I thought wasn't a yellow card. I know why they gave it, because it looked like one, but when you saw the replay, you're like, that probably wasn't. The other 2 were stone cold yellow cards, and one was I was going to say, you could argue that the first one on Puig was a red card. If that would have been a red card, I think there wouldn't have been enough video evidence to say that was a clear and obvious error. Which one was it? Was that the one with the arm?
Elbow? The elbow.
So there's no elbow, and that's I watched
contact to the face. No,
it was right under. It's like right at the shoulder line, right? And
so a neck hit is okay.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, if it's a little higher, like if he gets it up under the chin,
I go back to intent. I think if he's not playing the ball, he's playing the man, neck, elbow, just because he's not like that guy from, 90 Day Fiance with no neck. If if Riqui Puig was that guy, he would have gotten him right on the chin.
Well, that's
it's not Riqui Puig's fault that he has a neck and he has space there. That wasn't a play on the ball.
There's a reverse angle, because I know everybody sees the forward angle, and that angle's kind of like looking down a little bit on it, and there's a reverse angle that's kind of behind, and you can see the level of the arm, and it's like right here, and it's really it's borderline, but I'm like, for me, I'm like, maybe. If you gave it a red card, I don't think they're overturning it. It was one of those.
That's where I'm getting at.
But to me, that's a yellow card, and I was like, okay, that's fine. the whole deal. But they got 3 yellow cards in that consecutive, and they were like shocked and baffled by how they could have gotten so many yellow cards and such. And it was like, you guys aren't watching the game. Even the second yellow what was the argument there? You tried to grab the guy 3. It was Tyler Boyd, right? And he tries to grab him 3 times. He finally gets a hold of the jersey. He finally pulls him back, and it's like, well, that's going to be a yellow card. And I'm like,
all day,
and it's
every day.
It's always going to be a yellow card. There's no. He made it so easy for the referee. There was no way he couldn't have given a yellow card in that case. So then you get the red card, right? But remember, the Galaxy had made the comeback by then, right? I
think that's an important point to make, because I think that joke has been thrown around with, some red card luck that the Galaxy have gotten. I even had a friend who said, well, if the Galaxy just play everyone with 10 men, then they should absolutely be able to win out. But to your point, the comeback was already on, when they went up a man. I think that obviously helped, with them getting the extra man and being able to put that final chance away. But you can't say that the fight was only there because of the red card. The fight was there before the red card officially came through.
It's just an interesting turn of events. And the Galaxy, and I thought that we were going to ask Greg Vanney about what he said in the locker room, and he was like, I yelled at those guys. This game, it reminded me of a game a long time ago, and maybe it was in 2014 or it was in one of the MLS Cup winning years. I can't remember. I think it was 2014. The Galaxy go to Colorado, and they're losing 3-1, right? And it's not a good game, and you're like, man, this game's over, right? It's halftime. And Bruce Arena walked out of the tunnel at halftime, and he went to go see Kelly Tennant, who was the sideline reporter, right, for Spectrum. And it was probably Time Warner at that point, but Spectrum.
I want to say this is the 2012 run, right?
I think it's 2014 though, because I feel like it has to be earlier than later, or closer to this, because I was much more embedded in that time. I actually pulled the audio for that. I was able to get Spectrum to give me the audio for that for my preview and not sue me. And so, because I went back and actually pulled Bruce's audio for this, but he was like, he came out and he goes, I think we're going to see something from this team. He goes, they have a lot to prove, and I think they're going to prove it. And the Galaxy ended up winning that game like 4-3, right? And it was one of those, and it almost felt that way here, which was Vanney went in, and I know Bruce yelled and screamed at that particular point, right? Because that's what Bruce did whenever he was there. Yelled and screamed.
I was going to say, now we got to look back with different lenses when we talk about Bruce Arena now, but yeah.
I don't know that we do. He's always been that guy. It's just, I don't know what he said, so I can't tell you if it's worse than what I've heard.
But we know he's a colorful guy.
He is.
And he was someone who was known to motivate players with the specific style that he had. And so players responded to that. To me, personally, my playing style, I respond to, I was the type of guy who needed someone to kick me and to, tell me that you're an idiot and you're not doing well. I needed that guy instead of this positive person, which is kind of funny because I'm more of a rah, let's go get him positive type of person. But for me, what motivates me is the opposite.
Yeah. And so I would expected that sort of from Vanney. And he said, we walked into halftime and I said, and basically he said, we're in this game. We've had some good moments. Let's eliminate the mistakes and let's build some momentum. We know that they're going to get tired in the second half. That's how these games go midweek at this point in the season. We know that if we can build a little bit of momentum, they're going to get tired and they're going to fall behind and we can take advantage. Because he was like, I thought we created chances. And he goes, and I thought we were scoring goals. And he goes, I finally think we're scoring goals. Like that's what he said that in the press conference. I think we're finally scoring goals. Billy Sharp, 3 goals, right? Diego Fagundez, 1 goal. If you can get your number 9, which up until this point, I've told you, the LA Galaxy will go as far as their number 9 will take them, right? Well, holy crap, maybe Billy Sharp can lift them up and take them somewhere. It's a ridiculous performance from a guy who's 37 years old, who didn't have a preseason, who is working his way in, and all of a sudden he shows up, and he jokingly said, I was upset that I didn't have 4 or 5.
Yeah,
and correct. He could have had 4 or 5, right?
And to your point of that anecdote where he shared talking with Leerdam, saying, that made me upset. That showed that passion, that fire, that showed when he was able to get on the score sheet. And that's what the Galaxy have been missing. And it was interesting. We were talking, before the mics went hot, just that, we wanted someone to show us something, or you wanted someone to show you something.
I'll tell that story too.
And Billy Sharp scored 3 goals, but even if you watch each goal individually, they're not bangers. They're not, beautiful masterpieces of goals. That's like blue collar, just get your lunchbox and I'm just going to find a way to put this thing in the back of the net, which to Billy Sharp's point, that's how he came advertised.
Yep.
With his record from the championships. Sorry, it's escaping me. Sheffield's fans
Right.
saying about him, it was he just scores goals.
Right.
Billy Sharp, he scores goals, and that's the example. They weren't beautiful goals, but they were all goals. He was in the right place at the right time, and that's desperately what the Galaxy have needed. They have Riqui Puig for the finesse and the dancing around and making the circles and making it happen. They have Tyler Boyd to provide the service. They need someone who's just going to, put their head down and just find a way to do whatever they can, throw their body at the post and put the balls in the back of the net. And that's the type of guy that, the Galaxy have been desperately needing. It's just hopefully it's not too little too late.
Well, it was so before the game started, I was talking with Kevin Acevedo and LA Galaxy PR, and so I was sitting there and we were just discussing things as we do before a game, and we were going, and I'm like, listen, I refuse to say that the LA Galaxy are getting production out of their nines. I know that Joveljic has a penalty kick and Billy Sharp has scored 2 or 3 goals. That's fine, but I don't feel like the production's there. I don't feel like you're getting anything out of your number 9. And then and Kevin was sort of like, what does he have to do to get you to believe it? I'm like, he's gonna have to score goals, right? And he's like, okay, the whole deal. And I said, he's gonna have to make me feel it, right? Make me feel it. Make me feel like you're scoring goals. Make me feel like you're dangerous. Make me feel like you are changing this team for the better. That's what Billy Sharp is gonna have to do. So the first goal goes in, and Kevin was like, so anything? And I'm like, nope. I go, got to do more than that. That's great. I'm glad he scored a goal, but the Galaxy are losing 3-1 at halftime, right? It's like, we're not there yet. That's not a thing. Then he scores goal number 2. I'm like, okay, starting to pay attention now.
Something's happening.
Yep. Yeah. There's some tingly in the fingers, right? It's like, okay, what's happening here? And then the third goal if you even noticed, I think in the third goal in my tweet, I said, or in the second goal, I said, make me feel it, right? The whole deal. And it was about that. It's about changing the perception of what the LA Galaxy offense is supposed to be, because I've been saying the Galaxy offense is underperforming. It's underperforming, and it's not holding up its end. And on a night where I think the Galaxy defense was poor in smaller spurts than people will probably give it credit for, but it doesn't matter because you allowed the 3 goals, so I don't think it really matters.
It's like therapy. It's how did it make you feel? It's not necessarily what the truth was. It's what's your truth.
Yeah, right.
I think how it felt worse than what it really was.
So for a Galaxy offense that is routinely left the defense stranded, they picked up the defense on the night. Billy Sharp gets his 3rd goal. And then you knew it was coming. And then the red card comes in, and you're like, I actually thought the red card might change things too much for the Galaxy. Like, Minnesota's going to fall back
They're going to hunker
too much.
down. Yeah, I could see that too. Yeah.
And I was like, oh no. I go, that could be a problem. And then to watch, and Riqui Puig missed a header from like point blank. I think that might have been the tying goal that he missed, and then they scored the tying goal just a little bit later than that. But Riqui missed one, and there were chances that were almost there, and it's like, oh, is Billy Sharp going to get like a 4th goal and that type of thing? And then Joveljic comes in, Diego Fagundez comes onto the field. To a man, everybody we talked about said that Fagundez came on and changed that game. Vanny talked about putting him up higher, making sure that he was tucked in a little bit with Mark and moving Mark Delgado up higher, so that way Riqui had somewhere to go with the ball whenever he was done breaking through 7 guys through the midfield, right? And so it was all of those little things that sort of changed things. And Diego Fagundez, for my money, has been a little quieter than I would like him to be. He made his presence felt, I announced my presence with authority. I announced my presence with authority. That was Diego Fagundez on this one. And finishing that ball. And he even said that he went to Tyler Boyd and he said, the cutback is open, Tyler, find me. The cutback is open, find me. Right. And they did, and they scored. And that's why you saw him run right over to Tyler, and they hugged and that type of thing. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's the same can be said for Billy Sharp kind of finding his ways. He name checked Riqui Puig for giving him a penalty so he can kind of get his rhythm going. You can see that with Fagundez as well. He's trying to find his feet, but this is not going to be the best comparison ever when I make it. But when we talked about Kevin Cabral in the last few seasons, we said there's something there. It's just not clicking for whatever reason.
Right.
I feel like I've seen that with Fagundez during his time. There's something there. It's just not clicking. I think he's finding his way, and I think this goal could be something where the confidence starts to get back, because he didn't have a great start to the season with Austin. Now he gets the goal. Now he's heading into Austin, and that's exactly where you want that type of player in the right headspace heading into it. I'm going to go circle back to Billy Sharp point that someone made as well.
And then I have a Boyd point. So Sharp then Boyd.
It was mentioned in the chat, comparisons to Chicharito, and that, I think it was Chewy in the chat said it's, tap-ins only to the untrained eye. So to that point, Chicharito, when he was at his finest, he was never beating guys 1v1 with razzle dazzle, it was always, the quote unquote tap ins, but there's a skill to that. There's knowing where to be, there's having the perseverance, there's, the type of runs that you make. And that's what you see from Sharp as well. So while I said the goals weren't pretty, that doesn't mean that they didn't require the mental. That's what you get with a 37-year-old striker, someone who just knows how to figure it out and how to be there. It doesn't mean you're lucky. It means you know where to put yourself in those positions. And I think that's important to point that out, that while they weren't pretty goals, that's even more of a credit to Billy Sharp than, if you were able to have the individual skill to just put away bangers.
Billy joked right after the game. He said, I scored 3 goals from a combined 7 yards out, right?
Yeah.
And they were all right on the doorstep for him. So that was interesting. Chewy in the chat room said, not Boyd's best game. Here's a stat for you. Tyler Boyd notched an assist for a second consecutive match and logged a game-high 6 chances created. For most of that game, Tyler Boyd was the only chance creator because Riqui Puig was tied up in the middle with everybody from Minnesota trying to track him down, right?
That's how I felt. I felt like this wasn't Ricky's. I've said Riqui is the straw that stirs the drink, and I think he was definitely not that in this game. I felt like Boyd took over that role with Puig not necessarily being. Did I call him Puig? Puig not necessarily being in that role. I hate when I make that mistake.
There's a difference though, because what Riqui did was very professional. I talked to Greg about it afterwards. I said, I guess tell me a little bit about Ricky's performance in this game, because it's not one where you sit there and go, oh man, Riqui played great. But
he served a purpose.
Riqui played really well for what he did. He broke lines constantly. That ball that ends up being the game winner.
Yeah.
Greg,
how can I say that and then go and play the clip of that pass after I say that?
Greg said something about Riqui. He said he goes, he's grinding right now, and I even mentioned in my build up that he's not 100% healthy, and Greg sort of agreed with that in the question without saying it specifically, but. He's like, he's a grinder. He goes, he's played a lot of minutes. This is a long season. He's in a spot right now where, and I even mentioned that Douglas Costa isn't there. I go, so he doesn't have the relief valve anymore. It is a one-man show in that midfield right now for Riqui Puig. The fact that he's doing what he's doing is a godsend to the LA Galaxy, because this team would have no creativity otherwise. He's the one who breaks lines. He's the one who finds passes, right? And he's the one who really, he tires out midfields. He makes it impossible. He dribbles through 3 guys, 4 guys, 5 guys.
Draws the attention.
He draws the attention. Even if, and how many times did he get knocked on his butt in this game, right? Over and over and over again. And that's useful too, because yellow cards accumulate. Then you get a second yellow card and a red card. If you go back and look at the Galaxy's wins, red cards have been prevalent in them, right? And some of that is because people jumped on Riqui Puig too early, and they got the yellow cards, and they got second yellows that ended up in reds.
I remember, I think this was even a talking point that we've made at some point this season. We were talking about, the Galaxy being one of the least fouled teams in the league or something along those lines. And it's when you don't have lots of game changers, you're not going to get a lot of fouls because you're not going to have the players who are attacking defenders. With the way Puig has been playing all season long, you're starting to see now that he's, really kind of cooking and being the most valuable player on the team, you're starting to see more fouls and you're seeing red cards. And that's not a coincidence. That's not an accident. That's not dumb luck. That's the way that he's, drawing players in, where the only way that they can stop him is to foul. And then you're going to reap the benefits of that with yellow cards and red cards.
Yeah. By the way, the first time this season, the LA Galaxy have scored 4 goals. Interesting. Fun one.
That is a fun.
Jonathan Bond, by the way, moved into, Jonathan Bond moved into a tie with David Bingham for the second most regular season appearances, 85 by a Galaxy goalkeeper in the history of the club. He's about to be number 2 all by himself.
I was gonna say, I'm okay with that. Let's get Bingham out of the top 2. I'm okay. I feel better about having Bond in there. It's funny. I see Patrick. Sorry, I go ahead and finish your point, and then I'll circle back.
Yeah. Billy Sharp recorded the 27th hat trick in LA Galaxy history, ranks tied for the first on the Galaxy with 6 goals scored in 6 appearances across 200. That's the thing. 6 goals, 6 appearances, 245 minutes. Better than
leading
Messi.
Goal scorer.
Scoring better than Messi. The Sheffield Messi is doing crazy things. I just thought it was interesting. Just this whole game was very interesting. And even if this ends up being it, maybe something wacky goes wrong in Austin and it all ends, that you have this game to sort of be like, this team doesn't give up. And I know people love to say that they do. They said that they did against LAFC, and it's like, if you watch that game, you know why, right? And you're like, I get it. It's a long season. That game was over. Don't hurt yourself.
at what point in the game did they give up?
Yeah.
I think that's a fair
after the fourth
comparison
goal,
as well.
after the fourth goal, I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fine. I understand. So, just really interesting in terms of what the LA Galaxy did in this game. I am supremely impressed by Billy Sharp. I am supremely impressed by his ability to, and saying being in the right place at the right time is just so, it's almost like, oh, well, it's just a thing. That it's a developed sense of danger that he understands, right? And just where he was, I mean, look at him on that back post, like for the first goal.
Yeah.
Right.
Just salivating. We're ready for it.
Ready for it. Here comes, there's
Yeah.
going to be a rebound. It's probably going to be right in here. Oh, there was, and I scored, right? And it's like, it's those types of things. He had a good one earlier in that where he put it on frame too. I think I will reiterate what I said. One is the Galaxy are finally getting goal scoring from their number 9, and that makes a world of difference, as you've seen in this game.
Yeah.
That
is the difference in this game. Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing is that they will go as far as Billy Sharp can carry him. If Billy wants to go on a tear and score a whole bunch of goals, the Galaxy will keep winning games. And that goes to the strength of the opponents that they're playing right now, as well as everything else that goes in here. The crazy thing, and we talked about it at the beginning, was where all this stuff fell finally. Because Minnesota, like I said, was up, and I think in 8th or 7th or 8th at one point.
Yeah, you mentioned 7th.
Yeah, and they're in prime spot. They're like, we're there. They sub out, Reynoso, right? They're like, oh, yeah, we got this. No problem, right? And now they come back, and they are in 10th place, right? And so they're in 10th. They're out of the playoffs right now at 37 points. The LA Galaxy at 33 points are just 4 points back behind them. Galaxy are 5 points out of that last spot, which is Dallas. Portland, with their win over San Jose, jumped all the way up to 39 points and now in 8th spot, right? San Jose didn't move anywhere. They're in trouble now because Portland is coming in on fire, and the LA Galaxy have 2 games against Portland, right? So they have this. They also have a game in hand on most of these teams, right? And so you can sit there and say that's something to watch there. That's another 3 points that could be a quote free 3 points if you can get it. Go ahead.
And they'll see Minnesota again.
Yep.
So that's going to be an opportunity given where they're standing. It's really jumbled there. And even if you look slightly above, Vancouver sitting on 41, that's not far off from Dallas at 38 either. So again, even up until all the way to 5th place, it's still somewhat close. So again, it's all going to depend where they land to it. Fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, these teams are all going to play each other, and it's going to get kind of nasty towards the end. To the point that I was going to make, shout out to Patrick in the chat because he was mentioning don't compare Cabral to Fagundez. We don't need that kind of magic. And then he also had a super chat.
Yes, he did.
Best podcast in the country. Gave us 5 trophies. So shout out to Patrick for the super chat. I didn't give the shout out on Monday. You guys talked about it, but I didn't get to talk about our special award-winning podcast that we have now.
I mean, I was ready for it. There's
our segue.
There was, by the way, I would like to say congratulations to you, sir. Obviously, a big deal for you as part of this crew and everything that's gone on with the podcast. So you get to have that. So I said that Sophie texted in from Greece, was like wondering if we won. I mean, I have the best group of people around me, and it's so much fun.
We rallied the troops. Yeah, we needed to make sure we came out on top.
And we dominated. I mean, really, if you look at, there was a little bit of a comeback in this as well, because like this voting started. I didn't know the voting had started. I'm like,
that's where I was. I saw we weren't in first place, and I said, "Wait a minute, this isn't right. We gotta hit the retreat and assemble the troops here."
That's right. We can win this, no problem, and that type of thing. So yeah, a lot of fun to sort of be in that situation. So glad we got that. I also, just to tell you again, you want to know that there's regime change about in the LA Galaxy. I got congratulated multiple times by people for the podcast and everything like that. Some very nice text messages showed up on my phone from people within the organization. So, I don't like to have a big head and think that they watch this and listen to this show. I know they do, but that's not the point of this, and I don't care if they do, and if they didn't, that's cool too. But to know that you have guys out there, and one of our biggest fans, and it kind of, this is the one that always gets me all the time is of course Kevin Hartman. If he sees me, he will tell me something he listened to on the show. I know, Kevin, we love you. Thank you for listening. It's always a pleasure to get to talk to you and say hi. And we had him out at our live show that we did, I think, last year, and that type of thing. So there's a lot of cool stuff that comes from 15 years of doing this.
I have a funny anecdote about that because one of the fun things about doing a podcast, and especially when you do it long enough, obviously it's fun to interact with the chat. But at the end of the day, I'm just sitting here chatting with you. And so, I get to talk, not talk trash, but like if I'm going to be critical, I'm going to be critical of the people. And I think there was a few weeks ago or somewhere I was mentioning, we were talking about goalies. I was like, yeah, and then didn't Kevin Hartman have some mistakes? And then I thought to myself, wait, he's been to our show. He's mentioned that he listens. Oh no, I disparaged one of my heroes, one of my people. And I like had that panic attack to myself as I went through that thought process. So, it's not to mention, that's one, to say, hey, I'm going to be critical. I'm going to call it like it is. But two, I also I worry about offending and hurting people's feelings as well. That's the duality of man kind of happening with that that little anecdote that I went through. I had my mini panic attack that I offended Kevin Hartman.
Yeah, it's always something with that. It's not even a line you walk. You just understand that you're accountable to everybody, and
it is what it is.
That's fine too. Whenever it gets when we look at the team of the week, or excuse me, team of the match day, still won't get used to that for a little while. Team of the match day.
What you mean.
Yeah, Billy Sharp comes out on that, and then Riqui Puig was put on the bench for this one. And again, I know people are saying, well, Riqui hasn't really produced. Riqui is doing everything he can. This is like the Galaxy are a drowning man in the ocean, and Riqui keeps trying to throw the Galaxy over the surfboard and rescue him, and like the Galaxy keep pushing him away. That's where we're at right now. Somebody likened this season to Cool Runnings and the bobsled at the end of the race. And just how you're going and everything's looking really good, but the bolts are rattling off as you're going down the. Yeah, I mean, one, a great movie, but two, great visual.
It's funny. I remember that I watching that for the first time, like during summer school or something. And I remember one of the teachers actually was like physically crying, like in tears at that scene.
That's me every time.
As a child, you don't get it, but then rewatching it as an adult, you definitely get those feelings. The sad thing about that comparison, as good as it is they didn't, they did not place well in that competition, but they were well respected for finishing the race. And unfortunately, I think could be, that might be too good of a set of foreshadowing where the Galaxy are not gonna place well, but we're gonna respect them for how they finished the race and for picking up their bobsled and walking it across. I have one more thing on Billy Sharp, but if you have anything else to throw
I just wanted to say that that Mr. Provino comes in and Riqui is like Leonardo DiCaprio at the end of Titanic. It's like he's like, can he climb up the door?
There was room.
Come on. Come back. By the way, my wife and I literally go do the whole, Rose, after she lets him go, I'll never let go, Jack. I'll never let go. Goes away, and he goes, she lets go, which you just said you would never let go.
Yeah, wait a minute.
The whole thing, but then she has to yell for the boats to come back, and so she's, come back. And that's my wife and I, at least once a week.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I had a shout out to Space Corps in the chat. He said, Sharpie, you dead? So, Cool Runnings. What a great movie.
Sharpie, you dead? No, man.
But,
he pulls it. Yeah.
Yeah, pulls the egg. Want to kiss the egg?
Yeah, you want to kiss the egg. That's right. That's how it is. $5 super chat from Scott. We appreciate that. COG is the best. We love you all. Thank you, Scott. We love you too. Hope you're doing well, bud.
We're nothing but a reflection, especially in that poll and in that award, a reflection of the listeners as well.
It was the listeners who did it.
Yeah.
I can only vote so many times. So, I'm not saying I didn't use all 7 of my Twitter accounts.
All the burners.
Yeah, all the burners, but I definitely had it there. So we do that.
But,
yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to issue, I think it's time for corrections and retractions for Baby Shark. Rest in peace, Baby Shark.
R.I.P.
It was a fun run.
Yeah, it's over.
But we gotta use the platform. And I'm a big fan of, as the English say, taking the piss. Having fun, and if it upset them, you almost want to lean into it a little bit more.
I so want to lean into it. Like I'm like, man, who else could we sing this song about? Like that'll make you upset. Like who's on your? You can't do that to them, and it's like the whole deal. No, but go ahead. You can say it.
To your point, in The Athletic, you're the one who cued me into this as well. The man himself said that he wasn't a huge fan of it.
Right.
And at the end of the day, I think you got to respect that. I think you mentioned last week with Alex, you said, here's how he would respond. He'd be happy about it.
No.
But he actually said, I'm not crazy about it. And he kind of name checked the Casey and the Sunshine Band song that the Sheffield fan used to sing, to the tune of Give It Up. So, na 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 na, Billy Sharp, we've got Billy Sharp. So that's was, something that fans of that club were saying, was they should use that song. But you don't want to say, well, that's your thing. We want to have our own thing. And I don't know how a Casey and the Sunshine Band song from 1982 is more authentic or more serious than Baby Shark.
Yeah.
That's maybe a conversation for another day. But I also don't hate Casey and the Sunshine Band. If you're not familiar with Casey and the Sunshine Band, go ahead, do yourself a favor, check out their catalog. Check them out on Spotify. Some great disco 70s, 80s, some good stuff in there. So, got to do the corrections. If we want to come up with a different chant, I think we can come up with a different chant. Maybe it doesn't have to be ripping off the KC and the Sunshine Band, but we have to respect the man's wishes, and we have to say R.I.P. to Baby Shark.
Yeah, I mean, I still enjoy it, and MLS was leaning into it today too.
That's the funny thing. Right when
no.
they were trying to make fetch happen, it was too late.
It was too late. We shut it down. LA Ride Squad, by the way, somebody, Andrew at LA Ride Squad had tipped me off earlier that he wasn't a fan of it. Then I saw the Athletic article, so it was like a confluence of a couple things. We're like, okay, all right, I guess
we'll stop.
I
if
guess
you
we'll,
say so,
we'll let it go.
Yeah. I guess we'll have respect for our players if that's what you want to do. Yeah,
fine if you want to do it. Billy Sharp named the MLS Player of the Match Day as well. 3 goals, 5 shots, 1.47 on the XG. There's lots of stats we could talk about, which would be a lot of fun. Let's see. What is one of, like we talked about, this is the first time the LA Galaxy have scored 4 goals. It is now this season. It's now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times the LA Galaxy have scored 3 goals or more in the season. And the crazy thing is that didn't start until game 15. Right, the Galaxy didn't score 3 goals, and then since game 15 to game 28 right now, so approximately 13 games, right? They have scored 5 times where they've had more than 3 goals, or 3 goals or more.
Yeah,
so a little surge there.
I was gonna say we also talked about it at the beginning of the season. They can't be this bad, right? Eventually the goals are going to come. So they are starting to roll in, but unfortunately they're allowing a lot of goals too. So we're getting to squeaky bum time with some of these goals.
The goal differential is not still kind to them.
It's not stellar. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's the 8th time overall this season the Galaxy have allowed 3 goals or more. So
I thought you were going to start counting goals. I thought we were
no,
1, 2. Let's see. No, 3 plus 5. That's okay.
Billy Sharp, 245 minutes, tied for the lead with LA Galaxy goals right now. Just again to show the dearth of scoring that has appeared here for the LA Galaxy. It really has been something. When we look at the record percentage, now up to 60.7% of getting a point or better in games, winning percentage of under 30%, a losing percentage of just shy of 40%. Not great, Bob. Not great at all.
But the season hasn't been great. So
yeah, I mean, it's.
Are we surprised? Are we shocked? No. So the interesting thing, we'll get to the Austin preview in just a little bit. But as down as Galaxy fans have been, and we're here, hearing in the Discord and in the chat, go check out what Austin fans are saying about their team. Like, it can get worse, or it can feel worse, which is kind of ironic because they're above us in the standings. But in the terms of like vibe and how it feels, not feeling good on that side of Texas, and the Galaxy, as bad as we felt and as bad as we've seen them play, there's still that slight glimmer, that little, light at the end of the tunnel, that there's still hope. There's still a lot of people who are hopeful that this Galaxy team could do something. Whether they can or not, we'll find out. But there is still a chance for the Galaxy, and that's the crazy thing with how bad they've been.
Yeah, 22 points now at home, 1.67 points per game at home. They finished 1.57 points per game at home. They finished 1.65 points per game last year at home. So that home record slowly rounding into form. We talked about their away record, though, has been abysmal, just 11 points overall. That's where something could possibly change whenever they go to Austin. But that's still a big ask for this Galaxy team, especially on the road. They have not performed well on the road, and I just, it's really hard for me to sit here and say, yeah. But basically 2/3 of their points from home, 1/3 of their points from the away side of things. So that's there. Lasso's Optimism, $10 super chat, belated hello. Josh and Eric feeling a bit more optimistic, but okay with the boys fighting the good fight, not throwing in the towel yet. Yeah, don't throw in the towel. Listen, do not give up on this team until you need to give up on it, right? There's no point. You're just going to prolong your misery if you do that. It's like, oh, well, the season's already over. If you want to be a negative Nancy, close the screen, go away. Just, you don't need that right now. It's all good vibes, positive talk. That's what you need to hear.
Or go ahead and then join us in game 34 on decision day when you say, wait, they're still in it? I gave up on this team, 3 weeks ago.
It'll be fan appreciation day. It'll be fan appreciation day. So
it's funny. Lasso's Optimism is the one making the chat. It's very simple. Just believe. Just believe. You got to slap it on your way out.
Just believe. That's all you can do.
The believe sign, by the way. Careful what you're slapping on the way out.
Yeah. The believe sign. That's right. Let's see. I'm trying to think if there's any. This one's still interesting to me. 33. They're now 6 points back. They were 8 points back of both 2021 and 2022 start of last game. Now through this game, they're just 6 points back. So slowly climbing towards that point total which was 39, 41, 42, right in those zones, 48 points, where the Galaxy eventually end up. And in 2021, they missed the playoffs. In 2022, they end up finishing fourth in the Western Conference. That's right. The LA Galaxy are defending fourth place finishers. I was going to say champions, but you're done.
I was going to say, wait, what's happening? Defending fourth place champions?
Yeah.
That sounds like Champions League. What's happening here?
Yeah, defending fourth place finishers in the Western Conference right now. So underperforming for sure, and the first half of that season was miserable. The really fun thing, of course, is that we could also point out that the LA Galaxy still in 13th place. Have been since sometime in June. I think June 21st is whenever they took. And by the way,
they're going to finish the season in 13th place. You just know it. It's going to keep going up and down. They're never technically going to be out, but that's just. I just feel like that's where our fate is going to be sealed. It's just they've been lingering around there so long.
It is, technically speaking, by points per game, the Galaxy should be in 11th. Okay, so
yeah.
if you're going by that points per game, now it's just it's a 10th off, it's a 100th off on the rounding here. So they're just behind Austin and Kansas City, who have 35 and 34 points respectively. And so you're looking at this trying to figure out sort of where the Galaxy are going to finish and how that's going to, but they've been in 13th place. And the funny thing is that's not even, they were in 13th at one point and then they dropped to 14th. They were the last team in the Western Conference. Then they popped back up the next week because Colorado truly is horrible. Right. And so they've done a lot. So they may actually have been in 13th longer than since like June 21st. So it's just,
well, it's like
amazing.
the Wizard of Oz. Are you a good witch or are you a bad witch? Is this a good 13th place or a bad 13th place?
Man.
Because Colorado is definitely a bad 14th place. It's not a good 14th place.
It just keeps sucking together, and it's crazy that how everything keeps collapsing on itself in the Western Conference. There aren't there's no distance being gained. You had the two, you had the first place and third place team play each other, and it was a 0-0 draw, and that was it. And Seattle's like, well, we'll take second. Seattle being sneakily quiet in second place right now in the Western Conference.
You're not hearing much about them, but they're just quietly again, I don't like that. That makes me upset as a Galaxy fan.
Yeah.
But we also saw the Western Conference leading team against the 13th place team and looking pretty even as well when St. Louis came to Dignity Health Sports Park. So
mediocrity, Eric.
Yeah, mediocrity all the way around.
That's the what do you call it? The equality
parity.
within, the parity. There it is. That's the word. The parity within MLS. For sure. If you wanted to see goal differential, I did have that chart. -9 right now. As you look, we're looking at the LA Galaxy and what we project now, scoring 47.4 goals. Well, that's come up a little bit. All right, that's starting to feel a little bit better. And 58.3, that's got much worse than it was. So
a Billy Sharp hat trick will do that.
I've heard that whenever you get a hat trick, that always helps things. The LA Galaxy now just one loss in the month of September, a very busy month. 2 draws, 1 win in that. So games 5 and 6, very, as they say in Austin, muy importante. Very important.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll see some golazos in Austin.
That's right. All I have to remember is Ted Lasso, and then I say golazo, and I'm
there. You go.
I'm there.
He did it.
I did.
He did it.
It just took me a while. I just needed something to sort of help me there. This was a game the LA Galaxy scored first in. The LA Galaxy, whenever they score first, currently 8-1-1 whenever they score first. When they don't score first, they are winless. So if Austin scores, just turn the TV off. It's over. It's not going to happen. Our stats say the game is over. 0-10-4 whenever the LA Galaxy allow the first goal and outscored 14-33. Jeez, that's a lot.
When you say it out loud, that's not good.
That's not good. 25-15, by the way, is the Galaxy. They have 25 goals versus their opponents who have 15 whenever they score the first goal. All right, so not a lot of giant wins in there for the LA Galaxy. Can't they just win like a 4-0 and get the goal differential back to something that's like mildly reasonable?
That goes back to my criticism that I was having at the beginning. I don't like the way they play up a goal. I need them to be up 2 goals, 3 goals, so I don't have to worry about this and and clinch at the end of these games and give myself the extra blood pressure medication that I need here.
If you watch any of the games, really interesting results. RSL scored first and then lost to Dallas 3-1. Does that sound familiar? Because that's what happened to the LA Galaxy at the very first game of the season. The LA Galaxy getting that win. Portland 2-1 over San Jose. Seattle beating Colorado. St. Louis and LAFC 0-0. Nashville and SKC 0-0. Houston getting a big win over Vancouver, smashing Vancouver. Benny Ball's got some rolling in Houston right now. So that's interesting. And then Austin was 1-1 in New York. Talk about some help for the LA Galaxy. Austin's coming back from New York on this. Now they're already in their beds. They're already recovering. They're already doing the things they're supposed to do. And I believe the Galaxy are leaving on Friday afternoon to head to Austin for the game that is on Sunday. So they're leaving a day early from what I could tell on everything. Let's see. Gary has a question. He says, "Does Sharp finish the season in double digits? Does he? I mean, he only has to score 4 more goals."
I was going to say 6 games, 4 goals. That seems very doable.
It's certainly. It was. We were playing over under on the amount of stoppage time that was going to be in there, and I put it at 6. And I was like, "Is it 6? Is it over or under 6?" And everybody was just like, "Nah, it's going to be 6," and it ended up being 6. So I just want to say I placed that one correctly.
Right on. We'll get to Vegas odds later. Yeah.
All right. Scheduled for the Galaxy away to Austin, home to Portland. That wraps up September. And then October, away to Seattle, away to Minnesota. Minnesota again, that'll be a tough game. And then LA Galaxy hosting Real Salt Lake. And then LA Galaxy on Fan Appreciation Day against Dallas. Kevin Baxter tweeted me after that game, or texted me after the game and said, "Hey," he goes, "Well, that was a real snooze fest." And I go, "Yeah." I go, "Wasn't really exciting, was it?" He goes, "You know, it's all coming down to Dallas, right?" He goes, "That game, it's all going to come down to Dallas. That's what it's going to be. It's destined to be that way, you know."
You look at those last 3. I mean, Seattle, you see where they are in the standings. I don't know that game is going to make or break it. But Minnesota, what is it? Minnesota. What are the last 3?
Seattle, Minnesota, Portland. Let's see what. No,
Portland, Minnesota, Portland.
No.
Salt Lake, no. Seattle, Seattle.
Yeah.
Minnesota, Salt Lake, and then Dallas. Those 3 games are going to tell you the season. And if they're able to just hang in there and look competent, then you're right. Decision day, it all seems to be leading its way there. So, man, can they do it? Can they pull off the impossible? I don't have tons of hope, but again, they keep proving me wrong. Every time that I've gone out, they've pulled me back in. It's like The Godfather, right? Every time I'm out, they keep pulling me back in. So these darn LA Galaxy.
It is certainly something. Let's have a little fun here as we get ready for the LA Galaxy taking on Austin. This game, Austin versus LA Galaxy, coming up at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. It's a 6:55 p.m. kickoff, so that is a full 25-minute lead-in for this particular game, if you were wondering.
That's late.
Yeah, it's way late.
It's a school night.
That's an 8:30 start in Texas too. So that means it's an 8:55. It's a 9 o'clock start.
Basically
in
9
Austin.
o'clock. Yeah,
that's crazy. Whenever you look at it, Q2 Stadium, Apple TV, it is free, so and no complaining. And then FS1, where you can also watch it as well if you wanted to do that to yourself.
I was going to say if it's at FS1, you could definitely complain because they usually give you plenty to complain about.
Oh yeah,
with their broadcast there.
Yeah, I mean, not that Apple / MLS is doing a whole lot better. And we should point out, MLS is doing the direction and the production of these two Apple's just the distributor. But so now you just make sure you place your hate in the appropriate spot. Yeah, that's what I just want.
It's funny you mentioned that it was brought to our attention that this is not necessarily Apple's fault. Right. Apple's outsourcing some of this in this production, but I think being part of one of those conversations, the part that I took away from it, this Apple deal happened at the final hour before the season started, and they were kind of scrambling with some preseason games to figure it out. So this whole season is really the production teams figuring it out. And I would imagine that the product is probably going to be much better next season, especially with a certain Lionel Messi now in the league, that you're going to see a lot more resources and money put into the production and the quality.
He's very
come next season, you'll probably see a better product.
He's very tired, that Messi. That's what I heard. I heard he's very tired, exhausted, as a matter of fact.
I was going to say, we're not going to talk about the pizza, right?
No, we're going to let it go.
I will shout out my brother in Christ in the chat. Feel the Berm said that breakfast tacos are trash or something along those lines, and that's just something. Texas breakfast tacos.
Texas came up with breakfast tacos. Well, you know what, they are trash.
It's just a tortilla, eggs, and cheese. Like, come on. A breakfast burrito for Southern California.
I agree.
Nothing beats it. There's nothing better than that. And whatever they have out here, I will shout that from the rooftops.
Okay.
And I will get myself pummeled here in Texas. But breakfast tacos are not it. God bless the breakfast burrito of Southern California.
But if you can't have a breakfast burrito, let's say it's not on the menu and you can't have one, like breakfast tacos are okay. You get especially if it's a good tortilla.
It's like pizza.
Yeah.
That's why I mentioned it in the same pizza sentence. You can have bad pizza, but is it really? You have cheese, you have dough, you have sauce. It's hard to mess that up. Even bad pizza is edible. Yeah. A breakfast taco, you have a tortilla, you have egg, you have cheese. Okay. If you put the right sauce on it, of course, it's not going to be awful. But don't try to compare it with a luscious Southern California breakfast burrito from an Alberto or Roberto or Robertito
or Filiberto's. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, you're just not going to beat that.
King Taco, like any of those places, right? Okay, good. let's see. What else do we need to talk about? Okay, so let's get to some of the stuff on Austin. I got sidetracked, but now I'm hungry too, so I hate all of you.
Well, do you want to? Austin hasn't won since July 15th. Do you have that stat?
I have.
So
I have that stat.
They're winless in 6, 2 draws, 4 losses. And so just when you think, that's the point that I was making about, you think Galaxy fans have it bad or that they're, in bad shape about how their team is doing. Austin is equally as bad in terms of how they feel. They feel like their team is in a downward trajectory. Josh Wolf under a lot of fire there. So it's just one of those things, you take it in perspective. The fact that the Galaxy fans are able to feel a glimmer of hope, I feel like that's definitely not happening at Austin, and we have a direct correlation with that with Diego Fagundez. Once Fagundez has joined the Galaxy has had continued success. And my apologies to the chat, but someone mentioned Austin has only picked up 2 points since offloading Fagundez. So that's going to be a homecoming from him. He was beloved by that fan base, so I expect a good ovation for him. And that being a game where now he has his goal, he has his confidence, that could be the Diego Fagundez game. We always talk about former Galaxy players coming back and killing the Galaxy.
Yeah.
That we could finally benefit from one of those situations. It feels like that could be something that's coming down the line away at Austin.
He said in his post game, I want to score against Austin. Now, the reason is, one, he doesn't have to tell us the reason, but the reason that he gave us was that he tries to score against every team, and as soon as he left Austin, that means they're on the list, right? So it's just simply a matter of, I'm not with them anymore, so now I get to score. Damian Calhoun says, are you going to celebrate and stuff like that? And he didn't say no. Let's just put it that way. And I was like, oh, so we're angry then. We are fired up, aren't we, Diego? And it seems he is fired up. We knew that he was surprised at the move. We knew that he just signed a new long-term contract. He expected to be there. He expected to have his family there, the whole deal. And he still talks like AJ De La Garza, as far as I'm concerned. They are voice twins.
That's where my brain went.
And it freaks me out. And I'm looking at him. I'm going to call him AJ one of these days. So AJ, just if you're listening, eventually, just chime in on this. Is he not your voice twin? You guys knew each other. Like, was it like looking in a mirror with your ears? I don't know how I'm trying to say that, but you know what I mean? But anyway, so
audio mirror. Is that a thing?
He's fired up, Eric, and he doesn't care. He goes, yeah, I've thought about it. It's like, oh, well, that wasn't a no. That wasn't oh, yeah, I'm not going to celebrate. I have all the respect for Austin. It was like, no, I want to score against them. And he doesn't care if it's bulletin board material. I mean, Billy Sharp said afterwards, he said, I thought Diego was unlucky not to start this game, but he didn't pout. He came in, and he had a real effect on this game.
Yeah.
There is no doubt in my little tiny little mind that Greg Vanney ain't going to start Diego Fagundez.
1,000,000%.
Right?
Yeah,
on Sunday. That is 100%. The first person that goes on the team sheet after Riqui Puig was Diego Fagundez as the winger next to Puig.
Heck, what do we have to lose? Put the captain's armband down him. Make him first on the team sheet.
You should carry him out on like a door,
throne, right?
Throne. Like you have everybody do. Like they should have music and elephants and all sorts of things. However you want to do it. But no, I mean, there's motivation in this. There's a ton of motivation in this. And the bottom line is that despite the fact that I think Austin has some Driussi or Rudy, they have some really good pieces. They're not playing like it at all. Mm-hmm. And even Brad Stuver back there, I think is an excellent goalkeeper, and he can't save anything to save his life. And it's not his fault. A lot of these, they're getting pummeled. They did have a 1-1 draw with New York in New York. That's a lot more confidence than you would expect them to have, but they're also losers of their last 4 home games. So this is a team that feels more pressure at Q2 possibly than they do on the road. And as Galaxy watchers, we are aware of the problems of winning at home and how that can sort of stack up, right? So
and the pressure on how that builds. Galaxy fans know that feeling of the pressure that you have to perform at home, and it's definitely on. The defense is definitely something that the Galaxy are going to look to pick apart, because when you mentioned it with Driussi and Gallagher, who's been helpful with him, and Pereira, those are not bad players, and right. Even Fagundez, when you talk about he was having an off season when he was at Austin, these are not bad players. They just seem to be having an off year, but that doesn't mean that you could take them lightly for that reason, because the talent is there. Something that I also mentioned, I believe Zardes is still on Austin. I don't think he played the last game,
but he was on the bench.
That's someone you gotta watch out for when you talk about former players of your team coming back to hurt you.
Maybe
you gotta watch
starts.
out. You know,
maybe
personal favorite of mine. Yeah, Mr. Giassi Zardes. Yeah, he starts to offset the Fagundez.
Right.
Yeah, you have your game of chess there.
You have to go back and forth on your voodoo, right? Like you know you got to offset the voodoo.
There's a science to this.
That's right. Of course there is. A really interesting game for me. I am cautiously optimistic. Austin's only beaten the LA Galaxy once. They've met a total of 5 times. LA Galaxy has 4 wins. There's a lot of positives there. The last time the LA Galaxy went to Austin in 2022, May of 2022, they got away with a 1-0 win, if you remember that one. A little smash and grab on the road.
That was a Delgado banger, if I remember correctly.
You may be right. Yeah. So, Eric, what does Vegas say? What do our odds say? What's going to happen in this game? Who has favorited?
Last thing before I go, Ted Uncle scheduled to be the ref at this game. So I know we had the conversation last week, if you know the ref's name, but I actually went and dug into the referee stats for this season. He's ranked 20th out of 31 after reffing 20 matches for fouls per game. So he's not calling a lot of fouls this year, which actually could be the problem. So expect a physical game in this game with Ted Uncle at the whistle here.
Okay.
Moving on to D ratings, our Vegas odds here, our percentages to win. Austin FC is the favorite here, 46.8% chance to win.
Yes, love
it. The
it.
Galaxy with a 28.2% chance to win, and then a 25% chance for a draw. Looking at the Vegas odds, the money line, the Galaxy are at plus 255, Austin at minus 112. So again, Austin still heavy favorites there. But the interesting thing here, the draw is at plus 295. The interesting thing to me, it's showing the betting trends, and they're heavy on the LA Galaxy. So a lot of people are taking the Galaxy as quote unquote underdogs because they're probably seeing the same thing we're seeing with how they're playing in their current form. So they're getting a lot of action, even though they're not current favorites.
Sorry, chat room is once
coming
with the Ted Uncle content coming out. Mr. Provino, Christina better than Ted. So you got a refereeing family there, right? So
you have and then shout out Space Corps as well. Again, saying don't bet at the MGM. Speaking of Vegas has been hacked and shut down. So if you're maybe don't throw your credit card information if you're in Vegas or at one of those sites, or definitely do your research there before you do that. So interesting trends. If you're a betting LA Galaxy fan, the odds would behoove you to make some money if you feel like you think the Galaxy can go into Austin and take some points.
It's going to be wild and wacky. There's no way. Any game from here on out is wild and wacky. I'm going 3-2 LA Galaxy in this one. Billy Sharp has 2 goals, and he just keeps believing. And we're going to all have to learn the words to that song, I guess.
Yeah. Casey and the Sunshine Band.
Yeah.
Billy Sharp. We've got Billy Sharp. To me, I feel like this is one of those things where we got excited. We got the comeback win. We're catching a down Austin FC team. We go up 1-0, and then we pull the Vanny where we try to protect the lead instead of killing out the game, and we get a late equalizer from Austin. And we get a 1-1 draw.
Or an equalizer.
So a 1-1 draw, we stay in 13th place. But again, remember, these are guaranteed to be wrong. So maybe I'm doing some voodoo of my own. Who knows what's happening?
You don't know. You can't see me. You don't know if I have pants on or not.
You can't jinx. You're not supposed to say that.
Yeah, that's the whole. Who was it? It was Acevedo, Kevin Acevedo, after the press conference gave like a stat. It was something like, Austin hasn't won at home in their last 4 games. I'm like, jinxed it. That was it. That was over. You jinxed it.
We're done.
We're done here. We don't have to worry about it anymore. All right, LA Galaxy, Austin, coming up this weekend on a Sunday, a little Sunday evening matinee. So you can watch that one again on MLS Season Pass or FS1. That game is available for free on either of those stations. It's kind of a big one in terms of where the standings are and all that fun stuff.
Sunday Night Football.
Can't lose.
Don't say that.
You can't lose.
You can't say the word can't lose. Yeah.
You can't lose. You can't lose. That's right. The LA Galaxy are in that territory now. Can't lose. Yeah.
So you heard it here, folks. It's not a must-win, but absolutely 1,000,000%. I can't lose.
These are conditional because you don't know what the teams are going to do above you, right? So they're conditional because if the teams and the good thing is,
we'll put the Chiron afterward on the bottom. With the little asterisk. Yeah,
there are only 2 games on Sunday, right? And so the Galaxy will get a good chance to watch everybody else play and then have a good idea of what they need to do. I think the Galaxy are the last game on Sunday.
Well, at 9 o'clock Central Time, yeah, I sure hope so. No one's playing after that.
Maybe there's a West Coast, so, I don't know. Sometimes these things are crazy, and I don't pretend to understand them. And so, for me, I'm just trying to hold on to understanding what they're trying to do and how they're trying to do it and all that fun stuff. I'm trying to get to the game. Orlando and Miami play at 4:30 Pacific time, and then it's Austin and LA at 6:30. So yeah, the last game. So everybody will have played in front of them. They will know exactly. So that means they're going to move. Well, actually, no, they're going to stay exactly where they are in 13th place. But things around them are going to move, and then they're going to have a chance to find out whether or not they can jump anybody by the time they go to kickoff. A really good position to be in at this time of year.
And to be coming back home after that, I think this will tell us a lot going into after this weekend. So again, we're not quite dead yet. Bring out your dead. We were ready. Had the Galaxy had the tarp over them. They said, "Nope, we're not dead. We're not quite dead yet."
Not dead yet. That should be a T-shirt. Not dead yet. All right.
It's Monty Python.
Anything else you want to get to? We're good.
I just want to shout out my parents.
Oh,
my mom and dad were traveled back from Portugal. Got me this beautiful sporting jersey. So welcome home, Mom and Dad. They like to watch us with the time difference. They weren't checking out COG, so they're able to check us out. I already got the text. They like the way the jersey looks. So shout out, Mom and Dad. Miss you guys. Love you guys.
Where's mine, Mom and Dad? I love you too. I just want to
And also shout out to Sporting. Comeback win today. Europa League.
Ooh, a lot of fun.
All right, in it, folks.
Tell people where they can find you, sir. We got to go.
All right. As always, you can find me on everything at HammerEV9. That's Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. HammerEV and the number 9.
If you're looking for me on Twitter, it's at Guesman, at Galaxy Podcast, at Galaxy Podcast on Threads. That's always fun. Head on over to cornerthegalaxy.com, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any of those places. You can find us. Like, subscribe, tell your friends about us. Grow the COG family, all right? That does it. LA Galaxy headed off to Austin to take on Austin FC on Sunday. For Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira, I'm Josh Pato Guesman. You've been listening and you've been watching to our little Corner of the Galaxy. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast, and be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.